Hello. In this video we are going to talk about casting, and casting is the process of changing type. So like we were saying, for programming languages type matters, and it matters because how a program stores that information will change based on the type. So if I say, for example, area code, and I'm going to say area code string because I'm going to put a string here and I put 416. The type here is a string. And what that means is that I can use it in a sentence, something like this. I can say print your area code is, and then if I put a plus here to concatenate it, I can say area code string. And if I save this now, and I come over here and let's run it, so we're going to say Python 3, and this is called casting.py, I get my area code as 416. And that's no problem because this is a string type, and this is a string, and then what I'm doing is I'm concatenating them and putting them together. Since they're both strings, not a problem. Well, what would happen, let's come down here, and let's do the following. I'm going to say area code int, and I'm going to change the type of area code string. And we can use this using a group of functions. And the functions that we're going to use are called the int function, the str function, and the float function. And what these functions do is they take some value of a specific type and then return the integer, string, or float version of it. So what this will do is this will return value as a int. This will return value as a string. And this will return value as a float. And this becomes really useful. So here, if I want to store area code as an int, I could say 416. But I could also say int area code string. And so what happens now is I take this area code string, so this is a string 416, I pass it into this int function, and it spits out the area code. So if I try and do this, so what I've done is in this line here, is I have casted area code string to an integer type. And then on this line here is I've tried to use the area code int. And so if I save this now and I give this a run and press up to pull up my last command really quickly, I get an error. And what the error is the error is saying you're trying to concatenate a string with a non-string type. And so this is an example of where the type you can run into some problems. So the question is, why might we want to convert it to an area code int? Well, maybe what I want to do is I want to say area code int equals area code int plus 100. So I'm going to add 100 to my area code. And that's my new area code. But then I'm still going to have this problem down here because when I try and run this, this is still an integer. So what I do is I cast it back. And so I can say str. So what is this doing? So I take the area code as an integer, I cast it back to a string, meaning I can now concatenate it again. And then I get my area code as 516. Now some people might point out here that you can do this. By using a comma instead of a plus when you're concatenating, what it will do is it will take care of the casting for you. So if I save this now and run it, notice it works without casting. But this is a really important idea. This idea that in order to add 100 to the area code, you have to change the type or cast it to an int, add your 100, and then if you want to print it out or concatenate it, you have to cast it back to a string. Casting is the process of changing type. I can do the same thing. I could say something like area code float. And again, I'm just putting float here because it helps us understand, but you can call this whatever you want. And I'm going to say float area code int. So now if I print your area code is area code float, I'll get an error here because this is now, after this line, this is a float type. So I'm going to cast this to a string. And I save this. Notice I get 516.0. Because this is a float, it automatically adds the 0.0 onto it. And so what's the big takeaway here? The big takeaway is that type matters. But there is a built-in process with programming called casting. And what that does is it allows us to change type from one type to another to do different things with it. I hope this video helps, and if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out.